Mate, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm doing good.
I know you've been down here in Australia recently. First of all, how was the long flight? And secondly, how did you find it?
It was not bad. Usually for me, the flight to another country isn't too bad. I usually sleep for most of it. But coming back, the jet lag is what destroys me.
I know you were here for work, but did you get to see much of the sights? I know you did a lot of you enjoyed the cuisines. I know that.
Honestly, I loved it, and I'm not just saying that. I
Awesome.
got to stay with a close friend for like about 2 weeks. I was there for a convention and then stayed there for the rest of the time, and it was great. I mean, I got to get a lot of interesting food. Got to see some cool stuff. It was a great vacation.
What where did you stay? Sydney?
I was in Sydney for the con, but then I stayed in Melbourne for most of the trip. And
Ah,
we
okay.
popped over to Tasmania for a little bit as well.
Yeah, right. And what was the best food? What's the food that stood out? Because you tried everything. I mean, you've tried more than me, and I live live here.
Right. I
You even did
remember
a bunning
getting
sausage.
that's right, and that I loved that. Solo. I really liked that soft drink.
Yeah.
Had a lot of solo while I was there. I think I actually made a list. Oh yeah.
You got a list
Chicken,
up?
yeah, chicken salt on chips. That was a revolution for me. Um, I had a
Yeah.
lot of snack foods. So your like iced Bobos, your
Yeah.
Anzac biscuits, Twiggy sticks, caramel slices. Yeah,
You
so
like Tim
I had all.
Tams?
Yeah, but I've had Tim Tams before. They actually
Oh,
sell them in America. So,
did you try kangaroo?
yes, I had a kangaroo meat pie. It was good. Yeah. I think I'd like to try it. Not in a pie, just like more. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you guys do? Like steaks or something? Just to get a better sense of the meat. But
Yeah.
I've had it before too. I think, and yeah, so it's always been good.
And you had a halal pack trending on Twitter. That was quite funny.
That's right. Yeah. Halal snack pack, and then I think something
That
else might have trended while I was there in Australia. Guess I
is
just
funny.
yeah.
So talk to me about voice acting, man. Your range is unbelievable. I've seen a lot of your work over the years, and especially in games, and your range is just unreal. When did you sort of get a grasp of how far you could go with that voice of yours?
Um, I think well, it was high school when I started to really want to do this as a job. And so probably around then was when I started to really get into, acting, voice acting, trying different things. I mean, I wasn't any good, at the beginning. I was just a kid, but over time with practice and such and just uh yeah, so I want to say maybe like college was probably also when I started to like get a grasp of my range and such. But yeah, it was definitely something I was interested in since I mean in terms of performing
Mm.
from high school.
But what about the acting side of it? Because you have to actually be a good actor as well. You can't just do the funny voices. I think a lot of people
Sure.
forget that you have to be an actor at the core of it. Were you always good at acting? Is that something that came natural to you?
Uh Not necessarily. I mean I think for me it was just learning by doing. So I my sort of first foray into it was my friend would write radio plays and I would do some of the characters for his radio plays. And I think through that, and then I started making. This was before I had any sort of YouTube presence at all. I would
Mm.
do like comic dubs and fan dubs, and I had a voice acting Tumblr that I ran for like years, just making an audio post a day, just grinding, getting better. And so for me, it was just practice makes perfect. I did not, come out the gate at the level I am now. It was definitely a gradual process of just, again, learning by doing, just really, uh, having the discipline and patience to get better at it over
Mm.
time.
And in terms of video games, you always loved gaming growing up. What were some of your favorites? Give us some.
Favorite games of all time?
Yeah, come on, give me some.
Paper Mario. I love Paper Mario. BioShock. I'm a big fan of that. Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 7. Those are some of my favorites of all time.
Yeah, everyone's telling me to play Final Fantasy 9 since
it's great. I love it. It's my favorite one. So
I keep hearing that. Yeah.
It's great. Very dear to my heart.
And in terms of motion capture, was Ratatoskr your first time doing that, or had you done that in the past?
Yep, that was my first time.
What was that experience like, mate? Because that's sort of a dream come true, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was wild. I never thought I would get to write and do motion capture for a God of War game. I had played the God of Wars, the original trilogy when I was a kid, so it was very surreal. Not only getting to do motion capture, which I had never done, I got to work directly with Chris Judge, and and did the whole wear the suit and everything. It was intimidating for sure. I mean, you gotta memorize all your stuff, and Ratatoskr was also a very unique character in that portraying him was unique in that I was off to the side watching someone do a puppet.
Really?
Yeah. So like they had a little squirrel dummy, and they would make the squirrel, go on his shoulder and then move around and stuff. And
wow.
I'm off to the side. I have these bars in front of me. I have a platform behind me, and if the squirrel would sit, I would sit, and I had to sort of act out my movements and do my dialogue watching the squirrel and as if it was my perspective.
Yeah,
it was quite interesting.
It sounds like it.
And then I wrote the dialogue, so I was just like, why did I give myself so much dialogue? I was like cursing myself for doing that. But yeah, it was a really cool, fulfilling experience. I was very, very lucky to be part of it.
You absolutely nailed it, man. It was fantastic. Such a great character. How intimidated were you going up against Chris Judge? Because, as you said, you're not looking at each other directly while you're acting, are you? It's more just being in the same environment. But I know he takes it very seriously. After talking to some of the other cast members recently, he's very precious about it, but he also is a lovable bear, I've heard as well.
He was so nice. I was not intimidated by him. I mean,
yeah,
maybe to the extent of like, oh, I admire his work and I think he's a great performer. But in terms of like sort of, he was very welcoming, very kind. Yeah, I was just more so intimidated by just
the whole thing.
Remember your lines. Don't fuck. Or sorry, I don't know if I can.
No, you can swear. It's all good.
Don't fuck it up. Just get in there and get it. But again,
but that's you saying that in your own mind, right? The don't fuck it up. That's
of course not. No,
yeah.
The director and the actors, and they were all so warm and supportive. Like it was such a good environment. So it was really just my own, just having to tell myself, hey, just focus. But yeah, he was really, really nice. I enjoyed working with him.
And how did you feel after that first day on set? Did you feel different to a usual voice acting gig? Was there something different about it that you got addicted to it? Or
I would love to do more. I just compare it to like it's similar to like live action. So I've done some live action stuff here and there. It's a lot of it. The big differences are a lot of it's there's a lot of waiting, like trailer for your scenes. There's you gotta memorize everything. You gotta the physicality of it. Yeah, whether it's motion capture or live action or whatever. I would like to do more. I do enjoy it. Again, like if I got to do anything like God of War again, yeah, that'd be fantastic.
He's such a funny and quick-witted character. I'm wondering what that writing process was like for you. You said you had a big hand in it. Mm-hmm. How much of a hand did you have in it? And what did they sort of give you about the character? What descriptions were there? Backstories, that sort of thing?
I had a pretty wide range of freedom developing the character. All I was presented with initially was that they're bringing Ratatoskr in, and it's going to be a thing where he has multiple personalities. That's all they told me, really. In that the first game had, the bitter squirrel, and now we're bringing in the real one. But they let me not only decide the character's personality, but also I got to choose the other personalities, write for all of them, develop his backstory. I mean, they
Wow.
were so well, they just let me, go at it. And obviously I worked with them to, make sure it all fit and was, up to par. But yeah, I think initially the character was going to be pretty different. I think there had been some writing done for an initial Ratatoskr, the main guy.
Mm.
And I was like, I actually had this in mind. And they were like, cool, go ahead and rewrite it however you want. And so I basically rewrote the character from scratch.
I've never heard anyone say that before, by the way. Like that is, and I've interviewed
Yeah,
like 150
sure.
actors and no one's, that's crazy to me.
I mean, yeah, you almost never get to do something like this. Usually you come in, the character's set, you do the job,
Yeah.
you're done. But this was such a unique experience of, yeah, they just were like, what do you want to do with it?
Wow.
And it's not like the initial version was like bad by any means,
No, no.
but it was very different. And I think what I was like, let's try this angle. Let's try a character like this. And I was fortunate that they were receptive to it. And not only that, they really liked it and wanted, and so yeah, I had a lot of freedom in writing that character.
Was it more playfulness? Was it what was the big difference?
I would say I don't know how much I can talk about the initial stuff,
That's all right.
but my version of the character that ended up being in the game was I want him to be like very charismatic and but something like almost like I think I made the comparison of like kind of like a not like a used car salesman, but something where he's like really just like a gracious sort of host, like, hey,
Yeah.
come on in, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's always polite, but there's all I wanted to play with like the whole thing about because I was like, why does this character have multiple personalities? And so I came up with the idea of, well, what he ejects these personalities, it's aspects of himself that he finds inconvenient, right? Bitterness, anxiety, right? All of us have always, I'm sure, wanted, like, I wish I could just remove this aspect of myself because it's just plaguing me. And they were like, yeah, that's they really liked that idea. And so it's this sort of, I wanted to have like layers to him of like outward he's very charismatic, very eager to please, but he has his own little agendas here and there. Like ultimately he's a good dude,
Oh
but
yeah.
almost like you can sense like he's hiding something a little bit. I don't know. There was a lot that I wanted to sort of explore. And yeah, I think compared to the original, I think the original was a little more maybe sassy, more like kind of
Yeah.
like a little more aggressive, a little more sassy. And I was like, I think we've seen this kind of character before. Like, we've seen like the sort of furry animal character with an attitude, right? And also, I think that was something that had been kind of done with the bitter character in the first game. So I was like, I want to try this. Would that be okay? And they, again, to their credit, they were like, yeah, no, whatever you want to do, it's totally your call.
And that's you working with Eric Williams and Matt. Are they the two people that you work with the most, or?
So my Matt was all. I mean, again, well, my direct sort of guy was Richard. I haven't said his last name out loud. Gaubert.
Yep.
And he was basically who I directly. I would submit scenes to him, and
Okay.
but I know that all the writers were obviously involved, but Richard was very helpful in helping me, with ideas I would pitch and stuff like that. Yeah, I mainly Eric, I mean, that was mainly like initial meeting, and like, I would have some meetings here and there, and obviously on set, right? But
Yeah.
Richard was pretty instrumental. He was like the one I interacted with the most.
Was it
He
your
did it also
idea?
during COVID as well, so
Yeah.
there was a lot of online meetings and such.
Was it your idea to have Troy Baker as the bitter squirrel?
Gotcha. That was not my idea. That was actually something that they that was like set already. Of like, we're gonna have Troy Prize's role, but you're gonna voice all the other ones.
Yeah, right. And was it your idea for the chime? Because I made a video where if you throw the chime too many times, it starts to get really angry. Have you seen that?
I have seen that. I don't think I wrote that one, actually. I think that was something they threw in.
I love Easter eggs, sort of stuff like that.
A very funny scene. Yeah.
Mm.
At least I mean, it's funny. I don't remember everything about what I wrote, because sometimes, there have been scenes that have been like, posted, and I'm like, oh yeah. And then I still have all my scripts, and I look back and I go, oh, I actually wrote this part. Like, I mean, they did a lot of, changes here and there and such. I credit the writers, for really, making it making it really good in the end. But a lot of the original intent and ideas I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, it's pretty close to what I wrote. It was so long ago, and I had written so much stuff, and there was stuff that wasn't even in the game, that I'm like, I don't even remember everything. That was this mine? Was this theirs? It's all just kind of like a big collaboration, really.
Were there many times where you would break out in laughter? Like, I can't imagine it. I feel like it'd be quite serious, but also playful environment.
It was like the right amount of focused. Like, I actually did before we shot. We did like a sort of table read, basically, where it was like I think like a couple different scenes. They were shooting a completely different scene that day, and it actually, that's where I met I ran into Danielle, who plays Freya. We were not in the same scene at all, but I think they went through that scene, like a scene of that, I believe. Again, it's so long.
Yeah, I know, it's been long.
And then we did my scene, and it got a really good reaction. Even out of the cast members who were just there, not in the scene, they were laughing, and I was like, oh, this okay. It's playing well. Like, it was a very, again, like, welcoming environment. Yeah, I think it was focused, but it was relaxed. It was like the main pressure was just on myself, of like me on myself. The actual set itself everyone was so nice that and again, the scene I'm in is so light. Like, it's not a heavy scene by any means. So I think it kind of felt like my scene was like a breath of fresh air, because they were saying
it did. It felt like that.
The scenes they had shot earlier that day were really heavy. And so I think, I remember maybe it was Chris or somebody was like, man, this is nice. It's nice to have like a fun scene that's not, because we've been going through a lot of heavy stuff today. So yeah, it was just a good, welcoming environment on set.
The eye patch, what was the set? What was that always set in stone? That
was set in stone before I came in. Yeah, they'd shown me art of the character. So yeah, the eye patch was just sort of their initial design.
Yeah, right. And what would you say the most challenging scene was? Because I want to get in your mind of writing. There's one thing to perform, but to write is so difficult. I don't think people understand.
The most difficult one to perform was definitely his initial scene, because it was motion capture and memorizing. Everything else was done, in a voiceover booth.
Yeah.
But for writing, I can't think of necessarily a specific scene, but I will say it's really, video game writing is really interesting in that you have to come up with so many prompts. So if, for example, the player's character is depositing an item for a side quest, you have to come up with so many variations of like, thank you for the item, right? And you have to make them sound, unique and interesting, right? So I think that was like a really fascinating part of it. Like, wow, like, yeah, these sort of like buckets of, prompts of like, how can you, there was a lot of like, or even just calling out to like, hey, come over here, right? If you need to prompt the player to come to you, how can you say come over here in like different interesting ways without it sounding repetitive? That I
Yeah.
think was like an eye-opening sort of look into, wow, like you have to come up with a lot of stuff that you don't usually think about. Usually what stands out to you in a game is like, big dramatic scenes or big comedic scenes, but you kind of take for granted all the little call outs. But there's so much, you can't have like two call outs. You need so many unique ones. It's a really interesting process.
And that must get your creative juices flowing because
Oh yeah.
yeah. And that I can't imagine coming up with all those lines. I mean, how much time do you get to prepare for this sort of stuff? I mean, you're not just arriving and you have to come up with it on the fly.
No. Everything was written months before I recorded everything. I came in to write. I actually, I had to go through orientation. I was joined as basically a employee for a bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got a company email and everything. And then,
wow.
Yeah, and I was there for, I was, they gave me a good amount of time. Like it was, yeah, there were deadlines, but I never felt like it was unmanageable. So yeah, just your typical writing deadlines of, we need these scenes done by this day, and then I would just, crank them out basically.
And I'm curious. There was no audition process, right? They wanted you for this.
Yes, this one they actually had me. This was before the game was announced. They asked me to come into the studio, and I didn't know why. I think just to maybe, and I thought it was just a general meeting or something. And I go in, and they're like, "So I'm sure you can guess why you're here." And I was like, "I have no idea." And then Eric sort of like motioned towards there's a projector, and it had the God of War logo, and I was like,
"Wow,
oh." I was like, I see, you're doing another one. And they're like, yes, and we want you to play this character and write for him. And I was like, what are you, in my mind, I was like, what are you talking about? Okay. So yeah, I think what it was they knew they wanted Ratatoskr to have multiple personalities. And I think initially the idea was maybe different voices for all the different personnel, like actors, completely different actors for all of them. And
okay.
And then they were like, actually, I think what we want to do is have someone who can play different characters. So in a way that's convincing, but also like, they're all, because the point is they all still have to be him, right?
Mm.
Like, but they still have to feel distinct. And I think Eric or somebody was like, well, yeah, kind of like that guy. He does, those skits where he plays multiple characters in videos, right? Like something like that. And then one of the writers who I'm friends with was like, oh, I know him. We could get him. And I guess that was the conversation that led to casting me, was they saw that I could play different characters and like convincingly. And that was sort of the impetus to bring me in.
And did you finish the game? Did you get to play it?
Ragnarok?
Yeah.
Before, or I've actually not played it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, I have not played it yet. Yeah.
Is it not your style of game? Is that
what? I just have no time for games.
Yeah.
I feel like I play one video game a year, it feels like. So
what have you played this year? I'm curious.
I randomly, actually on the Australia trip, I was playing through the first 3 Dragon Quest games for the first time, just because I needed a game to play on the plane. Don't
tell me that's it. You've been busy.
I'm sure I've played something. Yes, I played the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then and now I have a list actually. In Australia, my friend showed me Until Dawn. I had never played that.
Yeah.
That was very entertaining. Yeah. Just random stuff. Like I'm like never up to date on games, unfortunately. I just don't have time. And
yeah,
games that I want to play, I have a pile of them, like, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And I'm like, one day.
The backlog gets bigger. Yeah.
it gets bigger and bigger. It's something I can't I envy my younger self who could just have months of free time to play video games, not even good ones sometimes, just play games like, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
wish I had that time.
Is there games that you want to get to, like in this backlog? Like I'm going to have to get to this game, or have you just given up at this point?
I haven't given up. I've been playing through the Yakuza games. I've played 0, 1, and 2, and I intend to play all of them because I love those games. So that's a series I just want to play through.
Yeah.
I feel like games I'm mentioning, I'm like, oh my god, that came out like 3 years ago now. Like I wanted to play Bowser's Fury, that sort of
yeah.
world. I have that. That was probably what 5 years ago now. At this point, I yeah, it's wild. At some point, I'm going to play them. I just don't know when.
You're too busy doing escape rooms and board games, mate, to have any time.
Board games take up a lot of time. Yes, that's my big thing. Is I play a ton of board games, and yeah, games are just such a time commitment. Like Great Ace Attorney, I really enjoyed it, but it took me so long to finally get through it all. I feel like certain games will get me addicted though. Like Hades, I played nonstop.
What a game!
I 100%ed it. I played it. That's all I wanted to do. So yeah, sometimes it's like specific games will hook me, like a Stardew Valley, a Hades, something that just gets, even like the Yakuza games. The reason why I like them so much, I'll get sucked into them. But my biggest sort of not problem, but I don't want to start a game and then not be able to play it for like a month and then lose all my momentum. Because if I
agree,
I'm not the guy who can like take a break from a game and jump back in. I'm like, I just got to. In fact, with the Great Ace Attorney, God, I got it when it came out. I played like the first couple cases, and then I just got too busy, and I think it was like a year or two, and I was like, so I was like, I'm gonna start over. So I restarted and played it all. Like I for a game, I have to be playing it regularly because if I take a break, even if it's like a 2-week break or something like that, I just forget what I was doing, and it.
Yeah. That's why I don't like DLCs. DLCs kill me because you play it 6 months later and you lose all your momentum, as you said.
Right. Yeah, I rarely play DLCs unless I happen to get the game later, which actually is more often the case now that I'll play a game 5 years later, and then I can just play the DLC right after. But yeah, if a DLC comes out like way later, I usually just forget about it.
And what about something like Elden Ring? Is that just too intimidating to you in terms of how long it is and how expansive it is?
I think with Elden Ring, like my wife loves that game. I think she platinumed it or something. Like,
nice.
She loves it. She loves those kinds of games. Like she's playing through Dark Souls. She played through Bloodborne. I haven't really played much of those Soulsborne games. I feel like I'd be really bad at them, and I just don't know if I have the patience these days to. I hear it's fun though, like maybe one day, but again, I think it's the length and the difficulty where I'm like, I'm never gonna get around to this.
Which one more, difficulty or length? Which one's the bigger?
That one, I think difficulty. Like,
okay.
I hear it's the most accessible out of all those games because it's open world and you can kind of do it at your own pace.
Yeah.
And I hear all the time, oh, it's so rewarding, and I'm sure it is. Oh yeah, you get, but I'm just like, I'm getting old. I just I don't have the patience I used to. Like I played through, I had never beaten like Mario 3 as a kid because it was too hard, and I only a couple years ago finally did it. Like I played through the whole thing in one sitting, and I was like, oh my god, like I did it, but
not again.
It was rough. Like it's a great game, and I'm glad I played it, but I'm just worse at video games now. Well, no, I'm probably about the same. I wasn't that good as a kid. Yeah, but I did beat it. But I think for me, like crushing, if a game is like, oh, it's so difficult, it's so crushingly difficult. That's not a plus for me. I'm not like, I gotta have crushing difficulty. I'm like, maybe I'll skip this one.
No, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
That's for sure. There's a lot of people that just sort of want a weekend game, I call them, where you can sort of beat in a weekend, go back to work.
I love those.
Yeah.
For me, like, I love like a short story driven game, like What Remains of Edith Finch, or like something that's just like, hey, I can sit down, have a great narrative, and I can play it in like one or two sittings. That's like I love that. I will, if anyone goes, hey, this game's like 4 hours, I'm like, or 2 hours, I'm like, great. It's like a movie I could watch, you know. So yeah, I feel like games have to be either really short, or I'll put 100 hours into a game,
Yeah.
but it has to be something where I'm hooked. Like, I have to be obsessed with it, and then because I do have that type of personality where if it's a game that's like, okay, like if I start playing a game and I go, 100%ing this will be really fun, I will do it and I will play like 100 hours. But I feel like it's got to be one or the other.
Have you ever been into getting platinums and achievements and trophies? And have you got that? Because I'm a bit like that, where I get a bit addicted to that sometimes.
Yes, not strictly platinuming, but 100%ing. I do love that. Like I remember before they updated it, Stardew Valley, I 100%ed it.
Jeez, that's a big effort, isn't it? I haven't even attempted that.
Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami 2, I 100%ed. Dragon Quest 11, I 100%ed. That took a long time.
Shit.
If it's like a long list of achievements, but they're fun. That's the key. It has to be fun. Like, even if it's hard.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Quest is an example where 11 there's a whole list of things to do, but I love checking off those boxes and stuff. So, but if the majority of the achievements in the game are annoying, or it's like, oh, you have to play it multiple times,
that's a killer for me. New Game Plus.
I'm less likely to do it. The exception being like, and this didn't even have achievements, but I played Fire Emblem Three Houses, I think literally 6 times through or whatever. Like, I was just obsessed with them. But that one had multiple endings.
Why that one? Yeah, because of the endings?
Yeah, because you have to pick a route, and there are 4 different routes, and so I wanted to see all the endings. They have all play out completely differently in the second half of the game. And also there's a New Game Plus, so that was one that I really put in the time and really enjoyed playing through all the different paths.
Yeah, going back, so with weekend games, I think you will love Until Dawn. You haven't played that one yet. Oh, you already did it. Yeah,
I played it during the trip. Basically, like, because it was not very long at all. Yeah, that was a very entertaining game.
You might like some of their other games. Quarry's good. Have you played the Quarry?
No, I haven't played any of the other stuff.
Quarry's nice weekend game. You might like. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So going back to God of War, you haven't finished that, but did you watch your cutscenes? I uploaded all your cutscenes onto YouTube. Everyone loved it. I'm just wondering, have you seen that?
Some of them, yeah.
Okay.
I definitely watched his initial scene, and then people were posting clips, and I did want to see like a lot of the final results, so I did watch a good number of them. Yeah.
And were you happy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Did it turn out okay?
Fucking awesome, mate. Yeah.
Okay. I was pretty happy with it.
Because there's some actors, they won't watch their stuff back. They're kind of not cringe, but they don't want to look. They kind of once it's out there, that's it. Are you sort of like that, or do you want to go back, critique it?
Oh, I don't want to critique it. Well, I am in the middle. Like, I don't seek stuff out I'm in just because I'm in it. I think to date, I don't think I've played a video game I've been in yet.
What?
Not because I don't want to, but I just haven't. It just has not been happened to be the ones I've been playing. I'm not in.
Really?
So yeah, I've watched some shows I'm in, and so I've watched stuff that I'm in, but not because I'm in it. It was just like, oh, I was gonna watch this anyway. I'll watch it. I am actually, I think for the most part, I'm usually pretty okay with hearing myself. Um, it doesn't bother me that much. It, I think with voiceover also, there can be a little more of a separation for me because usually it's, you know,
You can't see yourself, you
you
know.
can't see yourself, and also I'm doing a very different voice than I usually talk. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, in most cases anyway, I'm playing a very different character. With live action stuff, maybe sometimes that can be a little more not cringe, but I'm like, ooh, like it's. But
Yeah.
even that, I think I've gotten more used to over time. So yeah, I don't really have. I'm not that guy who's like I can't watch it, but I also don't seek it out just because I'm in it.
Yeah, right. Interesting. What's your opinion on AI and voice acting? Because there's all this thing going on at the moment. We know about the strike. Where do you land on it? What do you think?
I'm not a fan. I really dislike the way things are going. I think
Mm,
not to say that I'm not going to go as far as say there's no good use for AI because of course you can use like anything you can there can be good purposes and good uses and bad uses, but
yeah.
I think for if we don't keep it in check, if we're not careful, I think the potential not only for I think I guess there's so many bad ways it can be used, and if it's not properly handled now, if we don't take the steps now, I think it's going to become too big of a problem later on. And I mean, you see stuff like games are trying to. We don't want to cast actors anymore. We'll just get AI to do all the dialogue, right? And people are trying to like get the rights to your voice to things like that. If you're not
Mm.
careful, like you can accidentally sign away your voice. Like
It's like signing away your humanity or something. It's
yeah.
just it doesn't feel right.
And also for me, I truly do not think it can ever get to a point where it'll be as good.
Nah.
I think you can get very convincing sounding like you know pieces of AI voice stuff, but I think the thing about humans is that humans are AI is like too can it'll get to a point probably where it's too perfect, and that's not what makes a performance interesting. A performance is humans are imperfect, and that leads to better performances. I think there's a uniqueness to you know uh sometimes an accident during recording like can lead to an interesting result, right? Or something that
Mm.
you just never would have thought of, like going in a different direction, right? Like this idea of, oh yeah, we can just machine learn and get it down so that it sounds exactly. Yeah, you might be able to replicate the exact pitch of a voice and maybe even the cadence, but it's just it will. And you see it in art too, right? Like art, AI art, like just a lot of it just has a really soulless quality to it. It's not that I mean, some of it looks really bad, but even some of the best looking stuff, you look at it and go, oh, I mean, on a technical level, I suppose it looks, fine, but I feel nothing, you know. So yeah, it's an easy answer for me. I think I'm pretty against it, and I think we need to be very careful about how this progresses as time goes on.
Yeah, like even seeing the late great Kevin Conroy and people can use because he's got so much work over the years as Batman, they can manipulate it with AI. It to me, it's just so wrong. There
Yeah,
needs to be some sort of regulation.
absolutely. Energy regulation, and yeah, that's just I don't know, just disrespectful, and also
Mm.
again, it'll never be as good as the real deal. Like, you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
nah, and you're not the only one. I think all your colleagues in the industry would agree. I think it's pretty unanimous, isn't it?
yeah.
Hmm. What's So I know you love board games. Give me some of your underrated gems, if you can think of some that I might love. I'm a fan of the simple stuff, Cluedo. Um,
Mm,
I love code names.
okay.
I love what else do I love? Those sort of more simple games. What have you got any for me underrated gems that I should pick up? Because
One that comes to
I'm not going
mind.
to get anyone better than you who knows about this stuff.
One that comes to mind just by hearing you say those is Deception Murder in Hong Kong.
Deception Murder in Hong
It's a
Kong.
really great party game where basically one of you is a silent clue giver, and you're trying to give clues to the other players about a murder, basically. Um, and the rest of you are you're looking around at the other player's cards, but one of you is the murderer. So basically if you are the secret murderer, you're trying to push suspicion away from yourself and, you know, try to point at others, because you guys have to figure out which one of you is the murderer. It's like a hit and roll game.
Love it.
With, again, it's that's one that just almost everyone I introduce it to, like, really enjoys it. It's not hard to learn either.
Yep.
Very easy to pick up. So that's one that comes to mind.
Oh, I'm going to buy that one. What else have you got for me?
You said Cluedo, and what was the other one that you enjoyed?
Code names. Yeah, I love code names.
So you like kind of like
working with someone and like
cooperative.
Yeah.
Okay. There's one called So Clover, which is very fun.
So Clover.
A little hard to describe without the visuals, but essentially you have these square cards or cards you're writing.
Yeah, I can see them here. They're like Clover cards sort of things.
Yeah. So you write, they have words on them, and you have them in a specific configuration. And so there's like 8 words around the border of this clover, and there's 2 words on each side. And what you have to do as the player is write a 1-word clue on each bud of the clover, and then you take the cards off, shuffle in a random one, and then just the other people have to figure out by the 4 clues on the clover how these cards arranged.
Yeah, that's
really
tough.
Fun. Like, it's a simple game to understand, but really interesting.
Yeah,
especially sometimes that 5th card that gets thrown in. You might hear this and think, oh, this is easy, right? Isn't it gonna be so obvious which 4 cards were the ones? No, you'd be surprised. You throw in a 5th card, and sometimes it's completely a mystery as to which one is even the fake one. And so it's a really fun game of, you're openly discussing, like, do you think they meant this by this clue? Do you think, you're going to be this? Another really satisfying sort of party game.
And I love that you do those reviews, man, because I know you do them out of passion for no other reason than passion. I really respect that. And I hope you keep doing them, because I love them.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, I just like board games. And so for me, it's a way to, get people, to play more board games. I don't really care about views for those. It's just, I like them. And it's funny, they've been around for so long that people are just like, they used to be pretty, like, I would get comments like, what are these stupid board game reviews? No one cares about these. And now everyone's like, oh yeah, it's the board game reviews. Like,
it's turned around now. Yeah.
It definitely has turned around now. Yeah. I think a lot of YouTube commenters are very resistant to change. So like a board game reviews start coming out for the first time, they're like, what is this? This is what I signed up for. And now that I've done like 200 of them, they're like, yeah, it's board game reviews. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Hey, would you ever make your own board game? Maybe you have, and I don't know, but because I feel like that's something you'd love to do, to create. You've got ideas as well.
I get asked that a lot. I think I would do it if presented with the right fit. Like if it was, let's say, a really good co-designer or the right company, I'd be open to it.
But do you have ideas in your head about a game that you want to do, or not really?
Nothing concrete. I've had like talks here and there in the past about possibilities, but nothing's ever like really come to fruition. I mean, I love deck building games like Marvel Legendary and Plank, so I think probably I would lean towards something like that just because that's my favorite genre. But
Marvel Legendary, did you say?
It's a cooperative deck building game. It's my favorite board game.
Of all time.
And I don't really care about Marvel. Like, I don't dislike Marvel, but I'm not a comic book guy. It just, for me, the game is so much fun that, I just love it. So
it's not like Yu-Gi-Oh? Completely different?
No, completely different. Basically, the deck building genre in board games is not like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh. You have to make your own deck and bring your own deck and stuff.
Yeah.
The deck building genre, which started with like Dominion and things like that, you don't need to buy any like a deck. You basically you start with a really bad deck of like simple cards, and you use those cards to buy more cards into your deck as you play.
Is it? Would you say it's accessible to everyone, or do you have to be a certain? Do you reckon I could bring this one out?
Depends on who you're playing with. I wouldn't
Yeah,
bring this out for everybody, but I
yeah.
don't think it's like so heavy. It's completely, it's not like that heavy. I'd say it's right in the middle. Like I've definitely introduced it to people who aren't as familiar with games, and they've still had a good time. But that's because I know the game so well, I can teach it really well.
Yeah.
But like the base game, like it's not too bad. But I'd say it's like it sits right in the middle of complexity, I'd say.
Yeah, right. And I think I heard you say once that you've played over 1,000 board games, which is insane to me. I don't know where you keep them all.
Well, I definitely
Yes.
don't keep them
Okay.
all. I give away a lot of games.
Right. How many
Uh,
how many have you kept in the house?
Actually, I can actually look it up right now. I have played
You've got a list of everything, man. You're like me. I love this. You got a list of everything.
very list oriented.
Yeah.
I have played 1,689 games.
Sorry.
1,689, 1,689,
Oh my
1,689
God. I'm a rookie.
As of the
Oh,
recording of this interview, and it'll go up.
shit.
Well, most people don't play over 1,000 board games. It's just that I'm obsessed. So I've played 1,689, and then I usually in my collection have around 200. That'll fluctuate here and there.
If I were to reveal my worst, would you reveal the worst one you've ever played? Because the
Game?
worst I played was Squid Game recently. The adaptation.
Okay.
It was so bad. I don't know if you've played it. It
No,
was
I have
bad.
not.
It was bad.
I mean, worst game I've ever played, it's just something simple like a Candyland or something, right? Some really just
Yeah.
some kids game that has just there's no thought or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's either those types of games or ones that are just overly complicated, but not for any good reason, right?
Yeah.
Like just
I hate that. Yeah.
clumsily written games. Those are usually the worst for me.
What I hate about the Squid Game, I know it's going to sell well because of the IP. That's what irks me. And people will think, oh, we're getting into board games. This is great. And then they play this shit. And it just annoys me, you know?
Yeah, that's too bad because I know licensed games have gotten much better. There's a really prominent developer. They used to be called Prospero Hall. I think now,
Prospero Hall.
yeah, they were like a big change in the industry because they were making they did like Disney Villainous. They did the Jaws.
Oh,
They did
yeah.
they put out licensed games that are actually really well designed. Like not all of them are winners, but like
Yeah.
if they put out a game that's licensed, I will give it a shot because I'm like at least there was thought put into this. And like I recently played their Rear Window game, which I thought was great.
Hitchcock.
Yep, the Hitchcock's Rear Window.
Nice.
The board game of it.
That's cool.
They did a Godzilla game that was a lot of fun. The Jaws game is a really good game.
Wow.
Nobody expected.
Yeah.
They made a game for Pan Am, like Pan American Airways, and it's a good game.
What?
So it
Really?
just, as long as you get people who actually care, who are good designers and actually have passion, you can make a good game out of anything.
Yeah.
But it just depends on if you get the right people who care.
Yeah. Hey, man, thank you so much for taking the time today. An hour's flown by. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, this was fun. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Is there anything quickly before I let you go that you wanted to say to the God of War fans that might have tuned in today, or anyone that's a fan of you? I know you've got millions of fans, but yeah.
All I have to say is thank you for watching or playing the stuff that I'm in and supporting, and I hope to just keep being in stuff that I enjoy and that you also enjoy. And I guess just thank you all for giving a shit, I guess. Yeah.
That's it. If they don't give a shit, yeah, we're nothing.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. With I like to do this if you'll indulge me. Is there anything Ratatoskr could say to Dan? Is that possible to round this one out? Because I mean, I love Love what you did with that, man.
Let's see. Um, well, I would say you're a great conversationalist, and it was an absolute pleasure to speak with you.
Oh, the memories are flooding back.
Mhm.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can do this again one day, and have a great day, brother.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Have a good one.